I'm Anastasia Chatska, a fashion designer with over 20 years of experience and a sewing educator. And I'm really excited you're here to share another sewing adventure with me today. Welcome to Sew Anastasia, and today we are going to take this giant ugly prom dress and turn it into something beautiful and elegant. Can you believe I only paid $1 for this dress? Unbelievable. I'm so excited to turn it into something magical. We are going to transform this dress from this into this. So keep watching and find out how I take this giant poof of a dress and turn it into something sexy. If you're not already a subscriber to Sew Anastasia, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when all the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for subscribing and following along on my sewing adventure. I'm now also teaching sewing classes in person and virtually, so make sure you check them out and sign up at sewanastasia.com. So here's what the dress looks like on me. I love that it's hot pink. I love all this beautiful beadwork on it, but I do not love the silhouette. I feel like it's just not so flattering on me, even though it does fit me pretty well. I went thrifting the other day and I found this dress for $1 and I had to have it because the colors are beautiful, the embroidery is beautiful, but all of these layers in the dress are just a little too much for me to put this dress on and go out and have a good time. So we are going to remove all of these layers and we are going to take the beaded layer and do something stunning with it. So what we need to do is get this beaded layer removed from all of these other layers. And these layers are cool. We'll probably do something with them eventually. But for right now, my vision is to just use this sheer chiffon with all the beads on it to make a really elegant dress. In order to remove the sheer layer with all the beads, we're gonna have to flip this dress inside out, go up through all the layers and seam rip open the neckline. And then after that, the sheer layer should come apart. So you can see all the inner construction of the dress. It has some light boning in it. It has a few little pads. And now you can see our neckline here. So this is the seam that we need to remove all the way around the dress. You can see all of these rows of stitches right here. We need to open those up to get this neckline started. So go ahead and start seam ripping the neckline if you're gonna do something similar. So that way we can remove the layers. Once you get it started, you can usually take the two seams and start pulling it apart. There you go. You can see we've started. We've got a little hole here. And now I like to pull them apart with my fingers and use the seam ripper to work my way down the seams. So that way I can seam rip both seams at the same time. Now I have the entire neckline seam ripped. The lining is away from the sheer chiffon fabric. So now we need to undo the zipper out of here. So we have to open up all of these seams and get in here where the zipper is and carefully undo it. We're gonna have to remove the zipper because it's also attached to the lining fabric, and I just wanna use one layer of the sheer fabric. I don't want the lining fabric attached to it, so we're going to have to remove all of the layers. Our zipper is just about out. Now we can remove the under layers. Look at how poofy all of this was. It's kind of crazy. So much crinoline in here. And I love that it's hot pink. It's so fun. We're gonna have to do something with this later. But for now, that is off to the side. So we have a lining layer that also is attached to the bead layer here. So we're going to have to undo one more layer so we can just have a sheer layer. But our dress is already looking better. The beading is hanging so nice on this silk chiffon. I can't wait to get rid of the lining layer, and I think this is going to drape to the body so nice. So we are going to remove the stitches at the neck here that are connecting the chiffon and this lining layer, so that way we can pull these two layers apart. We are almost done seam ripping the chiffon from the lining here, and then we can really check out what the chiffon layer looks like. Okay, 1 stitch left. Yay, we did it! Okay, so we are gonna pull the lining out of the chiffon. Beautiful, hot pink, love it. We'll make it into something else later. But for now, we have this beautiful beaded fabric. I am obsessed. This is so like 90s prom, but in a very chic way. I feel like I saw this in all the vintage 90s magazines. So cute. Kind of got this 10 things I hate about you vibe in the prom scene. I swear someone is wearing something like this in the prom scene in that movie. If you find it, send me a picture. I would love to see it. Next, we're gonna put it on the dress form and see how it looks without all of the layers and all of the lining. And let's really take a good look at it and see what we can do to transform this to make it super chic. The dress is looking so much better. I love it without all the puffy stuff on it. This embroidery is just beautiful and it just hangs to the body so nice. But we're not finished. We still have some things to do. So the neckline is straight across. I think I would like to just let it naturally hang down a little bit lower. So we're just gonna move the pins and let it hang a little lower. And then I would like to take the middle and I'm going to put some gathers in here so that way it kind of gives it a sweetheart look and it gives it just a little bit more style so it's not going straight across the front of the body. One of my least favorite looks is just the horizontal line across the top chest. Don't love it, personal preference. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a few pins here, and then what we need to do is create some straps, and we're gonna bias bind the edge of the neckline, put back in the zipper, and voila, we've got a new dress. So I found the perfect trim in my trim box for the straps. Check out how awesome the silver tubing is. I love the silver trim. It matches the silver beads in the dress. So I think it's a super fun match. I mean, we already have sequins and beads everywhere, so why not add a little more sparkle to the strap? And then I found some lining fabric in pink, and we're gonna go ahead and make some bias tape out of this, so that way we can make a bias facing around the neck, and we're not gonna see it. It's gonna be on the inside of the dress, so I think it's a close enough match to make this dress look awesome. The first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and make a bias strip so we can make that bias facing. And if you don't know how to create a bias facing, make sure you check out my video on how to create a bias facing. You're probably wondering, how do I know how much bias tape to cut out? Well, I went ahead and measured all the way around the neckline, and I'm gonna give myself a few extra inches for the back of it as well for seam allowance. So measure all the way around your neckline, and that's how much you're gonna cut out. So I'm gonna go ahead and make my bias tape so it's always on the bias, which is on an angle. And now I'm gonna go ahead and make my bias tape 1.25 inches wide. I'm gonna cut a few strips and then we'll have to sew them together so we get one long enough. Gonna cut one more and then we should be done. Okay, so I have 2 bias strips cut and we need to sew them together. So you're gonna place them right sides together and you need to make sure that you place them on an angle like this. So it's going to make a right angle, so that way when we sew it and it flips back, it's going to create one long bias strip. So let's head over to the sewing machine and put this dress together. I'm gonna give this a 1/4 inch seam. Don't forget to back stitch and come all the way down and back stitch again. I've sewn together both pieces of the bias tape and we are ready to attach it around the neckline. So let's do it. We're going to create a bias facing going all the way around the neckline. So I have the right side of my dress face up. I'm going to take the right side of my bias tape and put it face down. And we are going to line up the edges here. And we are going to sew all the way around the neckline at 1/4 inch. Don't forget to back stitch and work your way all the way around the neckline. Make sure you backstitch and cut. You'll also notice I have the zipper foot on now, and I put that on so that way I can get closer to the neckline without running into the beads. Our bias is sewn all the way around the neck, and next what we need to do is turn the seam allowance towards the facing, and we're going to sew an edge stitch right on the bias tape. So an edge stitch is going to be 1/8 of an inch away from the seam, and we're sewing on the bias tape. Don't forget to back stitch, and let's continue. When you get to the very end, back stitch and cut. So we have our edge stitch all the way around the bias facing, and next what we're gonna do is flip it under. Normally you would go ahead and do another stitch, but I'm actually just gonna be stitching in the ditch where all these little princess line seams are throughout, so that way I don't see a big stitch on the outside of the sheer fabric with the beautiful beads. I don't wanna take away from its elegance. Okay, so I found my princess line, and I'm going to line up my needle position with that stitch, and then just go ahead and stitch in the ditch. It's really just a tack, so a few stitches forward, a few stitches backwards, and cut. Now go ahead and do this to the rest of the seams where the princess lines are, or maybe where you have a side seam on the garment, so that way you don't see a big stitching line on the top of it because it's fancy. If your fabric's not sheer, you could totally go ahead and just stitch all the way around the neckline. The bias facing at the neckline is looking great. I love the way it turned out. And now I have my little gathers pinned here at center front. We're gonna go ahead and just sew those down. I'm gonna carefully pull out my pin, position my fabric, and then we are going to sew down this little spot. Make sure you back stitch. If you have beads in your fabric, make sure you're going really slow so you don't hit any of the beads. Back stitch at the end and cut. It's all tacked down now. Our next step is going to be putting back in the invisible zipper. So we took it out because it was in all of those different layers in the dress, but now we just have our one silk chiffon layer with the beading. So we're gonna go ahead and put back in the zipper. And if you need help on how to put in an invisible zipper, go ahead and check out my video on it. Our zipper is in and it looks beautiful. It is an invisible zipper that looks invisible. It looks great with these beads all around it. Seamed perfectly. I love it. The last thing we need to do is attach our straps. I've pinned my silver strap on the front where I would like it and on the back where I would like it. So I'm gonna mark it with a pin, and then I'm gonna go ahead and cut a little bit of extra for the strap so that way I have some seam allowance to sew it on with. And then I'm gonna cut one more for the other side, and we are done. So let's cut our straps and sew them on. I have my strap positioned on the inside of the dress where I would like to sew it. I'm gonna select a zigzag stitch, and then we're gonna zigzag over it. I wanna make sure that this is nice and durable, especially because it's an untraditional material for a strap. Don't forget to back stitch, and I like to go back and forth on this a few times so it's nice and strong. And cut. Now we have the strap sewn down on the outside and the inside, so you can see that zigzag stitch. We're really holding this on. It's not gonna go anywhere. Now go ahead and do that to the other three ends of your straps, and we can try it on and check out what this dress looks like. I'm just loving how this dress turned out. I love the one sheer layer of silk chiffon with all the beads on it. I put a little slip under it, and we are good to go. I am loving how this turned out. I love the super funky silver strap I put on it and the little gather at the bust. I think those little accents really completed this upcycled look. And can you believe it? I got this dress for $1 and upcycled it into this. Look at how slinky and little the dress got after we took off all of those crazy layers. Can you imagine styling this in so many different ways now that it's just one cute little layer? Thanks so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today. I hope you had fun watching me transform a dress. So next time you're at the thrift store and you see a dress for $1 and it's ugly and you're not gonna wear it, think twice because you could upcycle it into something and give it a whole new life. Upcycling is so exciting and I love it. If you really enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, give it some applause, and leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite part of the video was. As always, make sure you're following me on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and TikTok and all the social media so that way we can stay connected and inspired. And I would love to see your upcycled projects, so make sure you tag me at Zoe Anastasia when you post so that way I can repost them and share them with everyone else. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!